Today's Patreon dedication is for Jason Belk. Thank you, Jason. The Dragon versus Ratadrabik, Garuda, and Urza Chief Artificer. 2-lander with no ramp. If there's, I always want ramp in my opening hand, but if there's one deck we want it in, it's this one. Smothering Tithe on turn 4 most likely, if we're lucky. Yeah, again, we will go down a card this time. Okay, and into... yeah, that should be alright. I think we've drawn into Return of the Wild Speaker every single time, haven't we? Let's keep that, get rid of Niv Mizzet because it's most difficult to cast. Not going to start off with a turn 1 Soul Ring, there's not much point, might as well just slowly get down the Orb of Dragonkind. Drew into some ramp in the form of Mirari's Wake as well, we'd want some more lands for that really. But we've got a very, very loose game plan. A Felwar Stone from Ratadrabik, and some more ramp in the form of Rivaz, so if we'd gone for Soul Ring previously we could have maybe got that down, although it would have been a tap land, wouldn't it? So if we get out an untapped land here, we can go Soul Ring into the Orb of Dragonkind. I think that'll be okay. So let's get some white mana with the Plateau, just missing blue here I think. Yeah, just missing blue at the moment. Get down the Orb, and then we don't have any 2-mana dragons, so just pass the turn at that. Need to decide between our 2 creatures next turn. Probably go for Zergo and Ojitai, because this has haste and it's a little bit of card advantage as well. Might help us keep getting our land drops in. And the first commander is Ratadrabik, going through some blue mana potentially. This will show us whether or not Garuda has any counter magic held up. Maybe he's holding onto it for us, because allows the Ratadrabik into play. That's a great one, Roaming Throne. Yeah, so we're getting into some stuff here. I think I'd rather get down this and try and make a land for the turn though. And we can make blue mana through the Orb thankfully, so can play the Zergo and Ojitai. And that comes down straight away as well, so we'll assume that the Dimir player doesn't have any counter magic. Don't think he was even holding up priority for us there. Go in towards the Ratadrabik before that starts going off. So we get to look at the top 3 cards, put one of them into our hand. Yeah, so Dockside and Old Gnawbone, we definitely take the command tower in the early game here. And obviously not going to bounce the dragon back to the hand here with its ability. So get down a land for the turn at least. And we're doing pretty well here I think. Just want to keep hold of the Soul Ring for a little bit longer. Lost Shield, Clockwork Scholar. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to attacking artifact creatures you control. And you can draw a card from an artifact creature once a turn. Alright, a Gilded Drake. Probably going to take our dragon away from us. If they had an additional mana there, I definitely would have taken the Ratadrabik. It would have cost them 4 mana, but well worth stealing away that commander, I think. But that does dictate what we're going to do next turn now. I was going to try and get down Roaming Throne and probably Rivaz in order to get double triggers on this. But maybe it's just Mirari's Wake now. Ratadrabik throws out an Honor-Worn Shaku. Tap and untap legendary you control to untap this, and it adds a colourless mana. And able to get into Tymna the Weaver straight away. So could swing in with Ratadrabik here. And decide to go in down the middle towards the Garuda, who has gained control of a tap dragon from us. So of course deciding to put a life into Tymna in order to draw a card. And round to our turn it comes again. That is a Dragonlord Dramoka. Could be an idea to get that down because it goes well with the Return of the Wild Speaker to draw more, but yeah, I think I'd rather just get down the Mirari's Wake here. Then we can do double and triple spells during a turn. Although saying that, if we start missing land drops, maybe I'll wish I got this down so that we can draw lands with this. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather try and guarantee land drops, so let's go for the Dragonlord Dramoka. Yeah, we'll swing in towards the Garuda here, I think is safe. And then the artifact player throwing out a Thopter Spywork, which will make a Thopter at the beginning of the turn. Garuda fixing everyone's black mana with an Urborg and then went through to combat there, swung in at the Ratadrabik player. So obviously went up another card, managed to get into a Felwar Stone, so ramping up nicely towards the commander. And now a clone for Garuda, likely going after our dragon again. No, going after the Tymna, so wants to be able to swing in with the dragon and draw some more. Managing to keep his hand reasonably full so far. A Nykthos has come down here now, and the Garuda has been attacked by Tymna, who drew a card and now into Teysa Karlov, so yeah, getting to a point where this board's going to be difficult to handle. Tapping that down with the Honor-Worn Shaku. and the Ratadrabik as well, so is this some kind of board wipe? He's expecting to not get a swing back here. Nope, just getting down another legend in the form of Carmen, Cruel Sky Marcher. So making good use of the Honor-worn Sharku there. Alright, no one can do anything during our turn. The Mana Reflection is another Mirari's Wake, although this triggers on any permanent tapping for mana, whereas the Mirari's Wake is just lands. If we were making land drops, I'd definitely get down the Mana Reflection, but we need to be drawing a bunch of cards here, so let's go for the Return of the Wildspeaker to try and make some lands. And this will draw us 5 cards thanks to the Dragon Lord Dramoka. Okay, getting to a bunch of lands, so yeah, let's swing him. And I'll go in down the middle again. And I had it in my head that this had Vigilance. Luckily I double checked, so we'll just go in with the Gilded Drake down the middle. We have sacrificed a permanent, so that triggers Carmen for the first time. Plus counter and gain a life. Bronze Guardian will give all of the other artifact creatures Ward 2. And that is an artifact creature, of course, so when it enters, triggers the elephant and draws a card. And this didn't trigger because they don't control an artifact at the beginning of their turn, so on the next turn they'll get a 1/1 Thopter. Seems hardly worth it for all the mana. And the Zergo and Ojitai going in towards the Ratadrabik player again, who we do need to be keeping a very close eye on and getting rid of as well. It's between these two players, of course. So blocking our creature with a 3/3 flyer. And that will kill it off. It will trigger the Ratadrabik twice, thanks to not Tymna, but Teysa Karlov. So the Carmen goes into the bin, but they will get a couple of copies of this, so they have 2 token Carmen copies here. And now Gyruda, Doom of Depths into play for the first time. So milling a bunch of stuff from us, including an Utvara Hellkite. There was a Doomsday here, a Fierce Guardianship for free counter magic. They went after their own undercover operative to go for Gyruda again, so hopefully we don't all just get milled out here as part of a combo. And again, going for Sakashima to carry on milling. And then taking control of a Yosei the Morning Star, so not comboing off quite, thankfully. This is owned by the Ratadrabik player. Better over here than under the control of Ratadrabik. Seeing another new legend, and it's a sack outlet. We really don't want to see this. Bartolome. Sacrificing the Teysa Karlov will bring in 2 Teysa Karlovs. And now everything they sacrifice will be doubled twice. The Carmen copies getting plus counters on them. And a plus counter goes on at Bartolome as well. Then sacrificing the Tymna as well. So Ratadrabik triggering 3 times. And then plus counters on those new creatures again. And now that these are tokens, they get lifelink and vigilance thanks to the Teysa tokens. So flying at 4/4s, swinging in to the left, and that will trigger the Sky Marchers once a piece. So with the first one, deciding to grab a Necromancy, and that can go after any creature in any graveyard, and they do have a sack outlet ready to make copies of things. I'm not sure what they're targeting here, we're about to find out. Okay, taking a Tidespout Tyrant. Whenever you cast a spell, return a permanent to its owner's hand. Okay, and it's noteworthy that the clause on this is if you cast it any time a sorcery wouldn't have been cast, then you have to sack it, but they didn't cast this at all, they just put it into play, so I should be able to keep that reanimation spell. They've also gone after the Kenrith's Royal Funeral, so when it enters the battlefield, exile 2 legendary cards from your graveyard, draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the greatest mana value amongst cards exiled this way. So looks like they're going after Carmen and the Tymna. So jumping up to 8 cards in hand there, and damage yet to be dealt to the Artifacts player. And damage dealt there, of course, so drawing even more cards from the Tymnas up to 11 in hand. Seeing another legend, to no one's surprise, Junji the Midnight Sky. And that does have a death trigger. Returning a permanent to hand there. And they returned Yosei the Morning Star here to the owner's hand, which is themselves, of course. They've got a bunch of black mana here, so I assume that they've run that through Nykthos to get a bunch of black devotion. Anyway, sacrificing the Junji here, so see what triggers they put on the stack. Put a target non-dragon creature from graveyard onto the battlefield, so the Teysa Karlov, and then each opponent discards 2 and loses 2. And again with that, so we're discarding 4 cards here. So if we're going to be up against discard and mill and stuff like that, might be best getting out Rivaz as soon as possible. Alright, and it's looking like the Garuda player has disconnected here. It's funny, we had a bit of a conversation about this in one of the recent videos. Now this player's scooping. There are certain triggers that have people tend to scoop on Magic Online, or maybe get people upset in Magic the Gathering in general. I think they are mill, discard, and extra turns. I think mass land destruction or constant targeted land destruction is fair enough, because that's kind of like a dick move in a casual game and you're just trying to play the game and you actually physically cannot play the game because you don't have lands. But the odd extra turn here and there, the odd bit of discard and the odd bit of mill, like we've seen in this game, is no reason to be crying away and scooping. So yeah, this is one of the triggers that we decided was one of the things that gets people scooping on Magic Online. Let's see. Get rid of... I can go Mirari's Wake and Roaming Throne next turn, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 mana and 2 mana, as long as we keep a land. So get rid of Rampant Growth and the Mana Reflection. We're not winning this game anyway. Noteworthy that Necromancy was on the stack there as well, because a player scooped. He took the blue Djinn with him as well. We have to discard 2 more. So, do we just give up on Rivaz then? And we won't be able to cast any dragons from the bin? Yeah, we'll just have to do that, I think. If we top deck into a land next turn, we could have kept hold of that, but we're not doing anything here. I imagine our opponent just abuses Junji. And now we see Animate Dead going on to the Niv-Mizzet Perun, which will very much help to ping for a lot of damage, but it will keep his hand full as well, most likely. And it is a legend as well, most noteworthy, so we can get multiple copies of it. And getting out Yosei the Morning Star also, so we won't even get an untap step. So sacrificing the Yosei, they will get 4 copies of it, and the Yosei is going to tap down 2 of our untapped permanents, so they'll likely be swinging in for lethal over the next couple of turns. And then sacrificing the Niv-Mizzet Perun, making a bunch of copies of that as well. Alright, so no point in us having a turn really. We will see what we would have drawn into, or will draw into, that is Rith. So hopefully my opponent doesn't durdle around too much next turn, just needs to be swinging in sideways really. He can turn everything in sideways, hit us for a bunch, and then sacrifice one of these, and we skip our next untap step, so definitely has us here. I'll give him the chance to do it, but if he does start durdling around, then I'll just scoop it up. So drawing a card during the draw step means that each individual Niv-Mizzet Perun will trigger. Now playing the Dawn Sky, not sure why our opponent's playing that. If he sacrifices it here and adds a bunch of triggers to the stack, that will be... Okay, yeah, he's durdling, so we'll leave it there. Like I said, literally all our opponent has to do is turn in sideways and hit us for a bunch of damage a couple of times, and can't do anything because all our stuff is tapped out to the Yosei, so that is that. A very lopsided game, unfortunately, but such is Magic Online. I do very much like Ratadrabik, and I imagine that at least some of you will like seeing Ratadrabik go off here, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.